Hey guys, TommyBryson here, and obviously no one wants to talk about exactly what happens after you're gone, right? But obviously this right here is by far one of the most important topics, although it is weird and although it is morbid, okay? Because basically, it's the only thing I can guarantee that all of us watching this video right now are going to share in common. So the whole idea is this, guys, okay? How do you save money when that time actually comes, okay? And by the way, it is not going to be cheap whatsoever because in America, there are a lot of costs, a lot of taxes, and I want to tell you exactly how to go ahead and basically avoid those. So that way, when you actually are gone, your family does not have to go into debt to actually get you money. For example, when my dad passed away, a little bit before that, actually, my brother had to go ahead and borrow a ton of money because basically he could not afford to do anything about it, okay? And that was a massive burden. Until this day, he actually still owes that money. And also, my friend, when his mom my cousin, when his mom passed away, my aunt, well, it was a lot of money. More money than we all expected, okay? So it's a massive thing, and if you actually become wealthy and all these other things, well, in reality, you have taxes to actually deal with. So in this video, I'll break down exactly how to save a bunch of money. And by the way, guys, there's this running joke out there that says basically, I can't afford to die, because you really can't, because if you do die and you don't have the money there, in reality, it is going to be a massive amount of money. So the goal of this video is to tell you exactly how to save money, how the whole thing works. That way, at least you are well aware. And again, is all guaranteed is going to happen to all of us here, unless you're a robot or a little bot or a little scammer in the comments down below, okay? Now, if you guys are new here, I post videos every single day, so you should also subscribe and hit the bell to get notified, and on top of that, also destroy the like button. Now, for part one of this video, I'll tell you about the funeral stuff. For part two, I'll tell you about all the taxes, and for part three, I'll tell you basically how to save money when all this stuff comes into play. Now, the very first thing, obviously, is going to be the funeral. Now, you know, I'll admit, okay, when I was growing up, I was a little younger, I thought basically, when you passed away, they buried you, that was the end of it. In reality, no, none of that stuff is free. The plot is not free. The stone is not free. The whole ceremony thing, none of that stuff is free. It doesn't come from charity, no. You have to pay for all those things. And by the way, they can cost up to upwards of $7,640 just for the entire actual funeral arrangements. But on top of that, the expenditures of you actually passing away can cost somewhere around $11,618 just for the medical costs and all the paperwork and all that extra stuff. Things that you actually need to actually happen, okay? So basically, overall, we're talking about well over $18,000 just for you to go. A lot of money when the average American doesn't even have, for example, $1,000 saved up for emergencies, okay? So a big problem here. But overall, it all depends also on the state you actually choose to live in. So for example, all states are different, but the cheapest one is going to be Mississippi, coming in around $18,000. So it's a lot of money. I laugh, but it's a lot of money. So the cheapest state to actually die in basically is Mississippi at around 18K. And the second most expensive one is actually California, coming in at, you guessed it, guys, okay, at around $29,000. Now, you probably don't know what the first most expensive state actually is, but in reality, it's going to be Hawaii. Yeah, Hawaii, the vacation state where everyone wants to go there, where the rock is from. Yeah, that state right there is going to cost somewhere around $42,000 in the whole expense of actually passing away. So again, it is a ridiculous amount of money. Now, tell me, how do you save money on this, okay? I know, morbid, weird, you don't want to think about it. But again, we got to, because it's going to happen eventually. So I'd rather have that thing taken care of before I pass away, and then my family has to deal with all that stuff, okay? So the stress of me being gone and also the stress of financial stuff, I don't want them to deal with that whatsoever. And also, for example, some people just go ahead and get a policy, but in reality, it's not recommended. Why? Because basically, you're paying money up front for something that's not happening for a very long time, so it's just gonna cost you a lot of money. So you're probably better off just basically investing it in a certain way, or for example, just going ahead and getting a term life insurance policy. Now, term life insurance, basically, you get life insurance for a certain term. either 20 years, either 25 years, or 30 years. Most of us just need around 20 years. If anything happens during that time, in reality, you're good to go. And those costs of funerals and that stuff can actually be paid for with the entire life insurance policy. So that's going to help you out a ton. And that's actually a way better idea. Again, when my dad passed away, there was no like life insurance, there was no estate planning, there was none of that stuff. Okay, he was smart because he did something like very fishy here and there with the whole thing he actually owned, like the whole how do I say this? It's not like a full-blown property, but the plot of land and some property actually earned, he actually passed it on to somebody else, so that way when he passed away, he didn't have to, it's a big thing here, but the whole goal is basically, the best way to actually do it is get term life insurance. That way, when the time comes, you have that money there to actually take care of everything, plus take care of your family also, potentially. Tommy, what about whole life? When you call in about life insurance, they're going to tell you about whole life. Whole life is going to be around 10 times more expensive. You don't need that one. Basically, because you don't need life insurance for your entire life. Why? Because basically, if you invest for 20, 30 years, you'll have enough money there to pass into your family no matter what. So just invest a difference. That way, you have that money there for the future. Whole life, way expensive, not worth it. No cash policy, none of that stuff is just nonsense. Just do term life, okay? That's the whole idea. And me as a younger person right now, as a 24-year-old, that's the policy I'm going to be getting. But even if I was, for example, 40 or 50, I will still get term life insurance and invest the difference. That way, I don't have to worry about paying all that money and having a bunch of big issues. I don't want to pay anyone $300 or $400 every single month. It's an insane amount of money. Now, guys, when it comes to taxes, this right here is going to be very important, but you only have to worry about basically around 2 of them, and around 1 in 700 of you watching this video. In reality, you're not going to have to pay this whatsoever. But you have, for example, estate taxes and also, for example, inheritance tax, okay? Estate tax is basically the money that you actually left behind, or your assets, actually gets taxed, and that comes out of your pocket in a way. And then the inheritance tax is basically out of the pocket of your loved ones, the people that are actually going to inherit your actual wealth. So you get taxed, and also the people that inherit your money actually get taxed also. Although, for example, are actually usually not going to get taxed when it comes to all these taxes right here. However, though, guys, okay, this right here is no joke, okay? Because estate taxes are very, very expensive. So depending on how much your state is actually worth overall, you can actually get taxed at the federal level, and also, for example, maybe at the state level also, because some states also have, for example, estate taxes, so you get taxed twice, the federal level and also the state level. So be careful with that also. But overall, around most of you are not going to get hit with this tax. Why? Because in reality, in order to get taxed at the federal level, you have to have an estate worth around $11.7 million. And most people actually don't have that, okay? And on top of that, if you do have that, or you do plan on basically saying, hey, Tommy, I want to build up wealth, millions and millions and millions of dollars to pass it on to my family. Well, if you don't have your estate in order, you can get taxed anywhere from an average of 17% of your estate, 17%, or for example, 40% at the highest rate. And again, that is going to cost you a lot of money. And remember though, guys, okay, if the estate is passed on, for example, to your wife or to your husband, okay, like your spouse, in reality, they won't have to pay that tax. Or for example, to direct descendants, again, they probably won't have to pay that tax either. But for anyone else, you will have to pay that tax. So keep those things in mind. However, though, guys, okay, 12 states out there have, for example, estate taxes. Only 6 have, for example, inheritance taxes, and only 2 have, for example, both those taxes, okay? So keep in mind, depending on where you live, you might have to pay, for example, more money in taxes if you actually want to be, for example, more wealthy by the time you actually pass away. Okay, so keep that in mind. It is not going to be cheap. But by the way, here's a picture right here with all the states that charge all of these taxes right here. So again, only 12 of them actually charge the estate taxes, and only around 6 of them actually charge, for example, the inheritance tax, and only 2 of them actually charge you both. But if you guys remember, guys, okay, Michael Jackson, remember Michael Jackson when he passed away? Well, his estate was actually taxed around $702 million, okay? A lot of money. On top of that, you want to be more like Sam Walton. When Sam Walton, the creator of Walmart, passed away, he had to pay little of this tax. Why? Because basically, he set everything up in a way where he did not have to worry about any of these things. So the big thing is going to be, hey, what do I do before the time comes. That way, everything is actually put into place. That way, you can basically avoid, in a lot of ways, the estate taxes. Now, when it comes, for example, to inheritance tax, the big thing is going to be basically you gotta transfer those assets before you actually pass away in order to have your people that are gonna actually inherit it actually avoid all those things. So for example, put it in a trust, okay? But the whole idea is kind of like, it's kind of crazy how, for example, how many times you get taxed in a lifetime, right? You get taxed when you make the money, when you spend the money, for example, sales tax. When you have, for example, a business, you get taxed again. When you pass away, you get taxed again. There's so many ways you get taxed. So the goal is that if you can save money in taxes, it doesn't hurt to actually go ahead and try to save money on taxes, okay? Because you spend money, you get taxed any way, any form. You can't avoid them in full, but if you can basically save that money, it means more money in your family's pocket. That way you can help them out when the time actually comes. So tell me, if you are a multi-billionaire, the answer is, yeah, I understand that, right? They have to pay like their fair share. But if you set everything up from the very beginning in a way to actually benefit your family, or for example, you know, these people have businesses, so those businesses create jobs and all that stuff. So I kind of get the whole idea here. But the big thing is going to be basically you as an individual, make sure a house is in order. That way, when the time comes, you can do all the legal things possible to go ahead. By the way, I don't believe in exploiting legal things, by the way, because basically if it's legal, you're not actually exploiting it. You're basically just doing the legal thing, the smart thing to actually do it. Now, everyone does not know them. That's the whole idea. So you got to go out there and do all the research. So basically, if it's legal, try to do it that way. It can save you a lot of money. If it was actually illegal, obviously you couldn't do it, and then that would be a massive problem. And by that point, I would not actually agree with it. Now, tell me, what exactly can I do to save money and make sure everything is set up the correct way? The first thing is basically you want to talk to an estate planner to get your will and everything in order. Okay, that person is a professional that deals with this stuff 24/7. That way, you know exactly what's going to be the best for you. The worst thing ever is you passing away, not having a will, and having the court decide exactly who's going to get the money and how everything's going to happen. That is not what you actually want. For some of you, set up, for example, a trust, okay, to shield your assets from these taxes, and actually who's actually going to inherit it is going to be also a very good option. Again, a will, having a trust in place, different types of trust. By the way, comment down below if you want me to make a video on different types of trusts out there and how to actually use it. But again, an estate planner is going to help you out with all of these things, okay? On top of that, you can actually go ahead and avoid capital gains tax through a loophole. So you can actually have people inherit those items right there or pass it on before you actually pass away. That way, you don't have to pay that capital gains tax, and neither do they at that moment right there. You also have, for example, the estate loopholes. That's actually like the Walton loophole, because basically the Waltons did it best. But the idea is basically you give away a lot of your assets before they actually appreciate from the very beginning. That way, you don't have to worry about them in the future. But again, it takes a lot of planning. So you're probably gonna need a professional. You know, the more I did research on this topic, I found that basically this goes deep, very, very deep. And you wanna have someone that knows exactly how everything works. So again, contact an estate planner in your area. And even if you don't have a lot of money, set up a will. On top of that, also, a big thing is going to be this. If you have a policy to anything out there, your retirement, anything out there, the idea is you gotta set up the right beneficiaries, okay? And by the way, I had an issue where basically I knew someone where he still had his ex-wife as the beneficiary to all of his goods. Is that a good idea? The answer is no, obviously, because in reality, the guy already had a new wife and also had new kids. Okay, kind of sound weird, like new wife, new kids or whatever. But yeah, you gotta be updating and stuff all the time to make sure the person is actually supposed to basically get your items, actually get it by sending, for example, the correct beneficiaries, okay? But overall, guys, in the end, at least for me, okay, the big thing's gonna be, hey, make sure you have, for example, life insurance, term life insurance. On top of that, make sure you have a will in place, speak to an estate planner. And on top of that, also have a trust in place if it actually fits you. And on top of that, I don't plan on passing away wealthy. Most likely, I'll pass on all my assets. That way, by the time actually comes, by the way, that's how Warren Buffett, or why Warren Buffett in a way, is going to be given basically all of his wealth to a charity, because that means no taxes and all that stuff also. And it's also going, for example, towards a very good place. So in that case, right, you have someone that's actually very, very wealthy, gonna pass that money away over to a charity. That way, everything is solid. And by the way, a lot of wealthy people are actually doing this to actually help charities. So in a way, you help a charity you might basically escape the estate tax, but that way it's kind of like in a way in better hands, okay? None of that bureaucracy and all that extra stuff that goes on, for example, with politicians and all that extra stuff, okay, guys? But guys, that is it for this video. Comment down below and let me know if it's helpful. And again, okay, it's a weird video, but you want to get all these things in order. You want to have life insurance, you want to have a will, you want to have a trust potentially if it fits in you, but you also want to have someone that's on your side, for example, like an estate planner. You don't want to think about it, I know, but it's important to have your house in order so when it does happen, and it will happen, that way everything is taken care of, okay? I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. As always, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified. On top of it, if you want to talk to me directly for 30 minutes for free, I have a third channel, link down below. Subscribe over there and also make an appointment and I'll call you directly and talk to you one-on-one for 30 minutes. On top of that, also, I have a second channel, also linked down below. Follow me on Instagram, TommyBryson, if you want to DM me also. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace.